Well, Attorney General, your speech addressed the very real dangers a second Trump presidency and the current super conservative majority on SCOTUS pose to same-sex marriage.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We have a very different court now than we had when marriage equality became the law of the land in 2015. We've lost 3 judges who ruled in the majority on that case. One of them, Anthony Kennedy, of course, authored that opinion. And I think we can't possibly overstate the importance of, having Kamala Harris be the one who gets to nominate Supreme Court justices who actually care about protecting people's freedoms, protecting their fundamental rights, and who understands and supports due process and equal protection under the law.
I want to play another quick clip of your DNC speech. Take a quick listen.
We know when she takes an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, she's actually read it. We know that she'll appoint Supreme Court justices who will protect our freedoms. And let me tell you, Kamala knows you go from the courthouse to the White House, not the other way around.
You added on social media, lady prosecutors get it done. As a former lady prosecutor, I co-sign that. But why is Kamala Harris's prosecutorial record such an asset for her campaign and also as the president of the United States?
Well, first of all, her experiences as not just district attorney, but also as attorney general. I mean, she spent her career, protecting the rights of all kinds of groups of people, right? Seniors and workers and students and minority communities and the environment. I mean, this is what this woman has done for the entirety of her career. And let me mention this. I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. 20 years Kamala Harris has been in public service, right? As a district attorney, as an attorney general, as a senator, as vice president. She is scandal-free, right? This is a woman of great character who just, puts her head down, studies the issues, does her homework, and does her job. And you contrast that with Donald Trump, who is routinely engaged in so many scandals that he has to sometimes tweet things out to create a new scandal just to distract the public from the scandal he's currently involved in. And I mean, it's such chaos. Why would we want to go back to that? But the other thing I want to point out to people is this. I mean, you talk about the stark contrast between these two individuals, right? They both know their way around the courtroom. Only for Kamala Harris, she served as a prosecutor or representing the people. And of course, with Donald Trump, every time he's in a courtroom, it's as a defendant, either because he's being sued for, trespassing against people's rights in some way or another, or because he's committed crimes. I mean, that's a stark difference. You have on one hand Kamala Harris, right, who obviously she's tried cases before judges and juries and is used to preparing witnesses for cases. With Donald Trump, he spends his time threatening judges and juries and witnesses on his cases. I mean, you couldn't have people who are more different and who have vastly different experiences. And it's just absolutely shocking to me that we even have to have this as a debate. You have somebody who's spent her whole career supporting and enforcing and defending the law, whereas Donald Trump has spent his entire career violating the law.
Yeah, it occurred to me when I was thinking about speaking with you that you are still in the process as the Michigan Attorney General of prosecuting fake electors that tried to subvert Michigan's 2020 election results. How worried are you about Donald Trump and his allies trying to repeat what they attempted to do 4 years ago?
I think it's probably his number one strategy, honestly. I really don't see him making an effort to try to convert undecided voters. More than that, what I see is these efforts that are already in place here on the ground in Michigan to try to subvert the election through illegal means. and to really try to enlist as many Republicans on the ground as possible, whether those are poll workers, whether those are local clerks, whether those are party activists. I think that what we saw in 2020, it's going to pale in comparison to what we're likely going to see in 2024. And again, it's not my job to decide winners or losers. It's my job to defend the will of the people, whatever that might be. But I can tell you this, if the will of the people here in Michigan is that, they support Kamala Harris as our next president of the United States, it's going to be tough. I don't think anybody should underestimate how hard we're going to have to fight to defend people's votes against an effort by the Trump campaign to subvert democracy here in Michigan and likely in states all across the nation.
Well, we've got you at the helm in Michigan as the Attorney General, and I am glad that you brought up, as you and I say goodbye, the idea that Kamala Harris has a 20-year-plus record of public service. She said in her speech on Thursday night, she's had one client. You and I as lawyers, we know clients. She's had one client her entire life, and that's been the people. Attorney General of Michigan, Dana Nessel, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.